Hey guys, welcome to FoundFlix. On this Ending Explained, we'll be looking at the disturbing psychological thriller Goodnight Mommy thanks to a landslide vote from you guys. Now let's vote again for which Ending Explained I'll do next between two that I've gotten a bunch of requests for recently. The Gallows, where students resurrecting a small town play discover some things are better left alone. Or Grave Encounters, where the crew of a ghost hunting show goes insane after being locked in a psychiatric hospital. Let me know which one you'd like to see by voting in the comments below. And for any video suggestions of any kind, I am all ears. Send them to me via the social media platform of your choosing at FoundFlix. Now let's start digging into Goodnight Mommy. Based on the trailer, it would be easy to think that there is some supernatural force at work with Mother as an evil being, but in reality it's a much more down-to-earth story showing the painful struggle of a family to move on after a traumatic loss. Throughout the film, we follow twin brothers Elias and Lucas, who live in a large remote mansion in Austria with their mother. After she returns from a surgery, the boys start to doubt that the woman is actually their mother, but an imposter, leading to things getting very out of hand. There's many aspects to the story that are left intentionally vague, leaving us with many questions, like is it really their mother? What was the accident? And what caused Mother to get her surgery? And there's even more to the story than it would first appear, because the finale of the film reveals that Elise'S twin brother Lucas has been dead the entirety of the film, despite seeming quite alive and interacting with his brother regularly. However, there are several instances that make it clear that Lucas isn't really there as Elias believes. Early in the film, after their mother returns, she pours one glass of juice, not two, even though Lucas is sitting there as well. And when Elias says that Lucas wants juice, she responds that he can ask for it himself. Or later, when playing a game, Lucas calls out answers to the questions, but Mother doesn't respond until Elias echoes what his brother said. This is again because he's not there, and the only person that can hear or interact with Lucas is Elias, so no one else sees him except his twin brother. Let's first attempt to understand the accident itself that led to Lucas's death, because this key event leads to everything that happens in the film. It's never explicitly stated what the actual accident is, but at the end, Mother tells Elias that it's not his fault, which I believe actually tells us the opposite is most likely true. Even if Elias didn't kill his brother on purpose, he must have been intrinsically involved in what happened, and that's why Mother says it's not his fault. And early in the film, we might see a reference to what happened to Lucas. Elias and Lucas are playing hide and seek, and Elias counts to 20 with his eyes closed on a raft in the lake by their house. When he opens them, Lucas is nowhere to be seen, and Elias calls out to his brother. Lucas doesn't appear, but we do see bubbles emerge to the surface of the lake that resemble what someone's final breaths would look like if they drowned. This could be the incident that led to Lucas's death, and Elias was totally oblivious to his brother's drowning nearby since he had his eyes closed. It also seems to be here that Elias is realizing that he is really and truly alone, if only for a moment, as he floats by himself on the lake. Another possibility for the accident is a fire, yet there's less evidence to support this. The house doesn't appear to have any fire damage or anything to indicate a fire occurred, but at one point Mother finds a lighter in Elias's bed and is furious seeing that he has it. And later we see that Elias is quite adept at setting fires. So this is another possibility, that Elias set a fire that resulted in his brother's death, but I'd still lean towards the accidental drowning. This is Elias's major struggle in the film, that he is unable to cope with the loss of his brother, and as a result, he has imagined that his brother is still with him like it was always supposed to be in his mind. Twins share a very strong connection, and Elias literally couldn't cope with the idea of losing his other half. So this is how he found a way to deal with the tragic loss, by pretending it never happened. And before the movie, for a period of time after the accident, their mother must have played along with Elias's fantasy, putting out 2 sets of clothes or making 2 breakfasts, despite her knowing the truth. Perhaps at first also going along with the fantasy helped her avoid dealing with the heartbreak of losing her son, but eventually the reality sets in and Mother tries to put her life back together and move on. She mentions to the father later that the accident and the separation was too much, so in addition to losing her son, it seems that after the accident she also lost her husband and the father to the twins as well. This would no doubt cause the mother to be struggling with how to put her life back together after so much loss. Before everything went south, she was a TV presenter and was at least successful enough to afford the nice huge house they live in, and it seems that she abandoned this career after the accident and separation. But now it appears she wants to return to work and vainly wants to get plastic surgery in a last-ditch effort to get her career back on track. And this is the surgery that she is returning from at the beginning of the film. It couldn't have been that her face was injured in the same accident that led to Lucas's death, because if it was perhaps a fatal car wreck, she would have more physical damage in areas other than her face. face. She does have a few cuts on her back, but not a broken leg or any other injuries that would indicate she was in a car wreck or fire or anything like that. To further prove that she elected to have the surgery, there are diagrams of her face that would be used for a plastic surgery procedure with markings on specific areas of her face. And her face looks fine here. If the surgery were due to injuries, she most likely wouldn't have any diagrams related to that at home. It seems that she was considering doing this surgery for quite some time, and now after everything's gone wrong, she is selfishly focused on how to recover her own life. And she's so distracted by her own grief that she doesn't mention the surgery to Elias, or even that she intends on selling the house. It makes sense too that she would want to sell the house if indeed that is where the accident that led to Lucas's death occurred and where her husband left as well. The house was supposed to be the place for them to grow together as a family, but that all changed, and that idyllic life they hope for is gone forever. All of that setup brings us chronologically to the beginning of the film, where Mother returns to the house after her surgery, and Elias immediately suspects the woman under the bandages isn't really his mother. Her behavior is somewhat normal at first, but still consumed by her personal grief, she fails to be a good mother and further feeds into Elias's suspicions of her being an imposter. After returning, she keeps Elias at arm's length, barricading herself in her room, and doesn't seem interested or perhaps even capable of communicating with him. At one point, Elias enters the room for Mother to answer the door, and she pretends to be asleep until her son leaves. So she's not really helping the situation by not communicating with her son, but to be fair, she's clearly struggling herself. And Lucas, who was created by Elias as a coping mechanism for his grief, winds up becoming a manifestation of Elias's suspicions and irrationalities about his mother, feeding further into Elias's delusions. Things escalate when one day Elias overhears Mother on the phone with someone saying, "I can't play along anymore, he has to face it." This is referring to her entertaining Elias's delusions about Lucas still being alive. She refuses to continue playing along and slowly starts getting Elias to finally understand the reality that his brother is dead. The next scene might leave us asking some questions about what happened, where Elias and Lucas discover the cat Leo they found in the woods dead behind the boiler in the basement. They believe it was their mother that killed it, but that doesn't seem likely. It could have been Elias as Lucas who actually killed the cat, kind of disconnected personalities. But there aren't any other blackout type events that happen where their personalities switch. So the more likely option is that the cat was still alive until Elias drowned it in the aquarium, which would also symbolize Lucas's death by drowning. Mother harshly scolds Elias after finding the cat and goes for the extreme with him, telling him she is not playing along anymore, saying from now on there will only be one breakfast and one set of clothes, yelling at Elias to never talk to his brother again and slapping him. It's pretty brutal, and she later feels really guilty for how harsh she was on him, crying in bed. But since she told Elias that she no longer recognizes or acknowledges Lucas's presence, to Elias this further proves that this woman can't be Mother. He can see Lucas, so if she can't, she must be an imposter. Because again, he refuses to accept the death of his brother, and that's the whole problem here. And all of this further feeds into his delusion as his insanity starts to take over. The next day, Mother seems to genuinely be trying for a fresh start with Elias, removing her facial bandages, revealing that she isn't a horrible monster underneath, and bringing him a boomerang as a present. But Elias's delusions remain, and he's still convinced she's an imposter, so he escapes from the house into the woods. Their escape attempt is short-lived, as the priest they find in town drives them right back to Mother's house, and that's where things get cranked up a notch. Elias and Lucas tape Mother to the bed, waking her up the next morning, demanding they tell where their mother is, and torturing her in a variety of horrific manners, like using a magnifying glass with the sun to burn her face, or sealing her lips shut with super glue, only to cut them open later with scissors. Ew, that's messed up! Throughout these torture scenes, we see several times that after Mother answers a question, Elias appears convinced that she really is their mother and almost cuts her loose. But consistently, Lucas doesn't let him, and it's almost like it is a memory of Lucas that is forcing Elias to torture her to get their previous mother back, who did acknowledge Lucas's presence. Elias's delusions have completely taken over at this point, and there is no turning back now in his descent into madness. He does eventually cut Mother free, who tries to futilely escape, tripping on a wire Elias set up outside the house, falling painfully face first on the concrete. She later comes to on the living room floor, finding herself at Elise'S final test. He demands once again to know where their mother is and lights the aquarium on fire. Mother pleads with Elise, willing to do anything to make this stop, saying she will play the game again. Lucas will be alive. She says she'll do things just like they were before, but he has to believe that she is his mother. She also tells him it's not his fault that Lucas has died and the accident wasn't his fault, as I discussed earlier. Lucas again shows up to push Elise's action as a voice of dissent, saying she will never do that and that she's lying. And again, Elise tells Mother to convince them it's really her as Lucas walks over to a curtain holding a candle to it. Elise asks what Lucas is doing, but Mother can't see him since he's not really there. Elise says their real mama would know and would see him, and goes over helping Lucas lighting the curtains on fire. For Elise, it seems that admitting she can't see Lucas was the final straw in convincing him that it's not really their mother, as his real mom would see his brother as he has this whole time. At first, Mother did pretend that Lucas was still around, but as soon as she stops pretending like Elise, he convinces himself completely that she is not Mother anymore via Lucas's influence. The house fire increases and Mother is engulfed in flames. Quite a brutal end after all her suffering. We don't see where Elise goes in the immediate aftermath, and the next scene takes place later, showing us the fire brigade at the house trying to contain the house fire. Weirdly, it looks like we see Mother in her yellow dress walking out of the front door of the house completely unaffected, who then disappears into the cornfield. I don't think she's alive, but this does tie into the final scene of the movie. In the same cornfield from the beginning, the two brothers make their way through the night humming their favorite song. They reach an open clearing where Mother is waiting for them in the same yellow dress, who joins them singing along with the boys as she embraces them both. They all smile, happily reunited, looking directly at the camera, which makes the whole thing way creepier. Of course, what this means is open to interpretation, but I think in the end, all three are dead and together in the afterlife. Though we don't know with certainty if Elise was also killed in the fire. Regardless if Elise is still alive, he is convinced that he was correct in his delusions, that by killing his imposter mom in the fire, he then finds his real mom in his mind, just as he had done with Lucas. And perhaps to Elise, the mother that we see exiting the house is the spirit of his real mother, who then joins the brothers in the field. Now Elise, in his disturbed version of reality, is able to move on as a reunited family once again, which is all he ever wanted. Too bad it's all in his head, because he's either dead and murdered his mother and killed himself, or he's all alone and even more entrenched in his delusions than ever before, creating his mother now along with his brother. Or was Elise right along to suspect his mother's identity and she really wasn't the person she claimed to be? There's quite a few clues throughout the movie that call Mother's identity into question, and none are ever totally resolved. First, they find a picture of their mother with another woman that looks exactly like her, even wearing the same outfit. She later says it was just a friend of hers and they used to dress alike, but it could be this woman is actually trying to replace the real Mother. Later, they discover a dating profile video that Mother did, but she has brown eyes in the video, unlike now. They confront her about it and she says she was wearing contacts and they can see for themselves in the bathroom. But the thing is, they never find the contacts. There's also her odd semi-abusive behavior to Elise as soon as she comes home, treating the boy quite harshly in several instances. Then there is the fact that later, when being questioned by Elise, she either doesn't answer at all or is unable to correctly remember specific information about the boys. It seems very strange that if she is their mother, that she wouldn't be able to remember and say any number of things that would quickly convince them of who she is, like the boys' birthdays or favorite food or any other basic info only a mother would know. Regardless of all that, I still believe it is their mother, and it makes little sense for this random woman who looks like Mother to come in and take over her life. Why would she even try to pretend to be their mother in the first place? Maybe because they are financially well off, but getting plastic surgery and all that seems like an absurd amount of effort just to try to trick one kid into believing that she is his mother. And most of these concerns do have reasonable explanations given to us by Mother, it's just that we don't get actual confirmation beyond what she says. I believe all this is purely misdirection by the directors, designed to make us question what we think, just like Elias is doing in the situation. According to the directors, the theme of the film is miscommunication, which we see early on between Mother and Elias. This fits more in line with that theme for it to be the mother, and it's their inability to communicate with each other that causes this rift to grow between them, and it's that which directly leads to Elias' suspicions and eventually Mother's death. Alright guys, that'll do it for my ending, explain, and analysis of Goodnight Mommy. As I said, the movie is deliberately vague, so there are many interpretations that can fit with the story. This is just my best attempt at piecing together what I believe to be going on. What did you guys think of the movie and its ending? Are there any other movies or TV shows you want me to explain? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.